Did God leave a direct trace on the earth? Genesis 3:8 says, "Then the man and his wife heard the sound of the Lord God, as he was walking in the garden in the cool of the day, and they hid from the Lord God among the trees of the garden." Here we have direct biblical proof that God was on the earth, in the Garden of Eden. God might be regarded as a divine scientist, a grand experimenter. He liked to observe the progress of his most prized creations. The great philosopher Leibniz said that God calculated in his infinite mind every possible world, and then made real the one he had calculated to be the best. This is God as a calculational rationalist, but others have claimed that God was not a calculator, but an experimenter. He was practical rather than theoretical. Abraham Steinberg, MD, wrote, "Some ancient sources state that God created earlier worlds and destroyed them. According to this, God made many worlds before he produced one to his liking. He performed even more experiments on the human race." Steinberg said, "Other sources state that before Adam, the first man according to Genesis, there were 974 generations which were destroyed because of their sins. God kept producing defective humans, and the problem lay in free will. If humans were given too much free will, they always rebelled. If not enough, they were like robots and never disobeyed. There was no moral jeopardy. Not until he reached Adam did God reach the sweet spot of free will, where it was impossible for God to predict if humans would obey or disobey. Only with this degree of free will could humans be morally accountable. Humans were originally giants like God." Steinberg said, "Adam underwent significant changes. He was a giant, but when he sinned, God placed his hand upon him and diminished him. God decided that it was better for humanity not to make quite so much in his image. They should not be anything like his equals. Lucifer had been made almost equal to God and given extraordinary free will, and look how that turned out. So God the experimenter was heavily involved with the world. He walked here and left his mark. Do you know where to look for the signs of where God made his presence felt? Have you heard of the Noble Rock? This was the foundation stone from which God made this earth. The Midrash Tanhuma says, "As the navel is set in the center of the human body, so is the land of Israel the navel of the world, situated in the center of the world, and Jerusalem in the center of the land of Israel, and the sanctuary in the center of Jerusalem, and the holy place in the center of the sanctuary, and the ark in the center of the holy place, and the foundation stone before the holy place, because from it the world was founded." When the Templars went to Jerusalem in the Middle Ages, the Ark of the Covenant was their second objective, not their primary goal. What they wanted above all was the footprints of God. These were imprinted on the foundation stone, from which God summoned the world into existence. The Templars extracted that part of the rock and took it to their headquarters. They believed it would give them the power of God. They would stand as the image of God on his own footprints, and his divine power would flow through them. But the footprints were much more powerful than even the Templars believed. A kind of force field prevented anyone from standing on them. They became the Templars' most sacred treasure. They believed that only the Holy Grail would permit them to use the sacred footprints and harness their power. In Parzival, the medieval chivalric romance by the poet and knight Wolfram von Eschenbach, the Holy Grail was described as an emerald stone from the devil's gleaming crown that he wore when he was the angel of light, the most dazzling star of all. The precious rock popped out when Lucifer was cast out of heaven after his failed rebellion against God. The stone fell into a cave that closed up on the stone so that mortals could not get their hands on it. That cave was in Jerusalem, and the Templars found it during their extensive excavations on Temple Mount. But God's footprints and Lucifer's emerald have vanished from the historical record. One tale says that an alchemist found them. When he clutched the emerald, he was able to step onto God's footprints. When he did so, he was overcome by a mysterious force and seized by a furious inspiration. In a feverish burst of activity, he wrote a book containing the language of God and revealing many of the most astonishing secrets of God. What book did he write? History knows it as the Voynich manuscript. To this day, no one has decoded it. No one else can interpret the mind of God unless they find the emerald and the footprints. Will you be the one who walks in God's footsteps? Will you reveal the secrets of God to the world?